have a chance in using to further your situation right now, comes this November, the Democratic Party. You ain't got no other instruments.
And you know what Professor Small is saying is actually what my good friend Tamika Mallory says in her book. She actually says that the Democratic Party
It's what you got.
It's closely aligned.
So how do you use it? Not align with it. How do you learn how to use it?
Now, see, now, Professor, let me interject. I'm glad you said that. I'm seeing that black base are trying to align with it. They're trying to assimilate. They're not trying to use it. I'm glad you pointed that out, which is one of the reasons why I think Tony Brown in 1991, when he became Republican, I think that was his issue.
Yeah, but his actions was backwards. Because becoming a Republican didn't change anything. He didn't have enough black people in the Republican Party to affect any kind of change, no matter how sentimental that move was. You had enough black people in the Democratic Party to go and fight for that kind of change. And we didn't do that. And we're making the same arguments, and we're not asking, wait a minute, why ain't the Jews making this argument? Why ain't the Latinos making this argument? Why isn't the Asian making this argument? Why isn't the Arab making this argument? No, they're all in there trying to change it to get there, to use it to get enough power for themselves to affect change in their community.
So I want to get your perspective on something. There was a brother, in fact, a long time ago, Baba Zaid Muhammad, our good friend, he said that a mistake that he felt that Reverend Jesse Jackson made with Rainbow Push was not using it to try to push the party further left, but instead try to assimilate into it. Do you agree with that?
The problem with Reverend Jesse Jackson, his alliance was wrong. Maybe that's why Coretta Scott King never spoke to him after the death of her husband, and I won't make no more elaborations on that. And that may be the problem.
Understood.
So, okay. I mean, the truth, they said, know the truth will set you free. Truth alone will set you free. I'm not going to lie for Jesse or nobody else. Dr. King got killed because black people killed him. A white man may have pulled that trigger, and the government of the United States may have hired to hit people. But without the collaboration of the black collaborators, Dr. King nor Malcolm would have been dead. Malcolm was dead because 50% of the people on his security force were police, black police from Washington to New York. So, see, we got to take responsibility for our irresponsibilities, right? We have one ship in the water with any possibility of taking our butts from drowning. The Republican ship is in that water, but there's nothing you can show me where that ship will save us from drowning right now, okay? And it works just like the Democratic Party. It's the same type of tool, okay? But the Democratic Party, we do have a lot of our people in. We do have to work on them. They are going to reject you, you know. Our people will reject you. I've been involved in the movement since I'm 14 years old. I know what rejection by black people was, you know, and could be. And like I said, I'm about to turn 80 the next year. So I'm clear, but I can't let that stop me from fighting for change, where I see the possibilities of change. And right now, our possibility is this black woman, if y'all want to call her black, this human woman, who's smart as hell, right? There's never been a person running for the presidency of the United States before with Harris's credential. Y'all realize that? This woman was a district attorney 2 or 3 times in 2 different jurisdictions. She was attorney general of one of the major states in America. She was senator from that major state in America. She was vice president of the United States. Nobody has come to the presidency with her credentials. Never. And we still trying to find a way to put the sister down. You know? And so it's kind of crazy when I'm listening to some of this stuff. Are these people reading?
And actually, too, Professor, you actually had a group of most people in this room, I'm sure don't know, but this week you actually had a group of sisters coming out under the hashtag, I'm not with her.
Yeah, well,
going in on Kamala Harris.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of people who are misinformed. It's like and I wanted to catch that one when I talked about the training versus the education.
Yes, yes.
You know, the word education come from what? The word to
draw out.
Educe, to bring something inside out. But we're in a culture that teaches us that education is to put something outside in. And that's why we get messed up, right? Because we think the tooling is the education. No, the tooling that we're getting in the university and school, the tooling is to help us bring the thing that's inside your spirit out, all right? But we never get that right. So just that alone, if we understood, we would, as a people, we would get it right. But let's just come back to the most practical thing there is. We got to make sure we can provide food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security for ourselves and our family. That means we've got to get control of the economic, the politics, and the culture where we live. The economics is the wealth and the environment that you live in. In East Orange, your primary economics wealth is in tax revenues being returned to the community, okay? Or entrepreneurship and business ownership in the community, which means getting licenses and getting approvals, getting bank loans and all of these things. How do you get access? Those are the two primary ways of finding wealth in East Orange. So you're not going to find no gold mine or cobalt or coltan mine here. You're going to find the tax revenues and entrepreneurial revenue. And entrepreneurial revenue means licensing, which is where they get us, right? It means bank loans, which is where they get us. So we have to figure out, when we say economics, what are we talking about? We're talking about the wealth that's in the environment that you live in, how you can turn them to riches. Now let me finish. Let me talk about the politics. Politics is the management system for how you get and control your wealth. It's the management system for your economics. So if you're not involved in the politics, you're going to stay in poverty because you have no management system. Culture is the ethical, moral force that informs your polity on how to manage your economics.
Okay, now just first, do we have a time? What time do we have, brother? What time do we have, brother Marcus? What time is it? Okay, we're going to, I'm going to wind this down, then we're going to do a Q&A, Professor. But I wanted to tell you, Dr. Karenga last week put out an article defending Vice President Harris, and he said much of what you said. He jumped on the whole thing about the racial identity, and he mentioned a lot of what you had stated. Of course, we've heard the term, you can't have politics without culture, culture without politics. Professor Small, there's a friend of mine, another friend of mine, Brother Sharif Amenhotep, and he said, brother, when you speak to Baba Small, because, back to the whole ADOS FBA thing, he said, ask Baba Small, please, to break down Africa, where that term came from. Of course, with the whole.
I did the research. Anybody want to find the research? Where in Europe have you heard the word Africa be used for anything positive? And yet, if this thing came out of Europe, why don't we see it in the language or the etymology of it coming from anything Europe? The word Africa, the only place you can find, and these people celebrate it every year, in the part of Africa that's called Tunisia. They celebrate being the Africans. Well, they don't use the word African the way we use it. They're Arabs. But they celebrated the fact that the ethnic nation from whom that word derived, and the first writings you see about it is in the Roman literature, where they refer going to Afriland. Ka is their acronym for land, according to the etymology of the word. They were going to Afriland, where the Marouche, which is the Greek word for black persons, live, which became the corruption called the Moors when it got anglicized. Moors ain't a particular group of black people. It was just the European word for black people, And so we need to just get that kind of stuff straight. Yes, it's the Europeans and Arabs who began to popularize the word Africa for the whole continent, but the word comes out of the continent. You will still find people in places like the Ashanti Nation whose families are called Afriye. That's the original word that comes out of Tunisia when Tunisia was black. The white people and Arabs who live in Tunisia now was not there then. And when the Romans invaded Tunisia, and the Germans, the Visigoth, invaded before the Arabs came. North Africa had been whitened up before there was any Moorish push, there. But it's just, we just need to study history. That's too much history to try to cover. But the word Africa comes out of Africa. Nobody named the whole continent in those days. This concept of naming whole land, man, this is a modern thing. People call themselves humans, or whatever their word was for human being or living being. That's how people name themselves. Look in any language. And in the word they use to describe themselves as human being, you will find when they talk about people, person, place, or thing, that the suffix or the prefix in any African language you see is their word for God. Okay? So they always consider themselves to be God beings, living beings, of God beings, created by God beings. That's how they named themselves back in the day. This thing of naming a whole group of people something and say this is that tribe and that's not what they did. They had their family name. They don't, and Africans really never use what we call surnames the way we do it now. That's a new thing too, They're referred to whoever the original ancestor was for that community. That became the name of that community. Whoever the founders that brought this family together, that expanded into this clan, that expanded into this ethnic group, that was the name they used. But nobody said this is South Africa, this is North Africa, this is North America, this is Asia. Nobody did that back in the day.
Okay, we're going to open up for Q&A. Would anyone like to, who would like to question Professor Small? Is that Brother Daniel Abdullah? Okay, hold on
Brother
one second.
Daniel Abdullah, you in the house?
Hold on. Hold 1 second.
I'm gonna let
Brother
you
Henry,
go.
we have a microphone. Where's the other mic? We have another microphone. I don't want to have to do this Montel Williams style, the Donahue style. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Brother Najee. Give that to Brother Daniel. We appreciate it. Thank you. And please, family, make your questions and comments brief. We don't want a dissertation defense.
Yes. I'm aware in 1975, Elijah Muhammad died. His son, Wallace D. Muhammad, became the leader. He was a close friend of, he was a close friend of Brother Malcolm X, Wallace D. Muhammad. When he came in to Nation Islam, he said, listen, we have to follow what, quote, quote, Orthodox Islam. What we got is not, quote, quote, the thing. So he changed it to Orthodox Islam, but he said, look, we're not going to follow the Arabs. We're going to follow our own school of thought. So he had a Wallace D. school of thought. So he quote, so the movement found, quote, quote, Sunni Islam and some of the practices like going to Hajj and prayer and that type of thing. But the Wallace D. Muhammad school of thought is different from the, quote, quote, four schools of thought that the Sunni Islam traditionally practice. He has certain features in the Wallace D. Muhammad school of thought that stand out. One of those features is that 99% of Muslims, they believe that Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet and last messenger of Allah. Wallace D. Muhammad said no. In my school of thought, he's the last prophet. He is not the last messenger. Another thing, his school of thought, Wallace D. school of thought.
Ask me a question, brother.
Question, Brother Dan. Go ahead, Brother Dan. We got it here. Come on,
Okay,
brother.
okay, but okay.
And I'll respond to what you just said. Too.
Okay. One other thing here. I understand that Lattimore, he had to sue the other guy because he was trying to take credit for the light bulb type of thing. So he had to sue with a Bell. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Lattimore created the carbon filament, and that made the instrument practical. It was useless until he created that filament, which then made it a practical tool. But I think Brother Warthdeen made a critical mistake in dismantling the Nation of Islam, dismantling the businesses. He destroyed the foundation of a nation when he destroyed the economic foundation of the Nation of Islam. Prophet Muhammad, and they say, wasalam, there's nothing in the Quran that said he was the last prophet. That's a myth. The word that's used says the seal of the prophet. then the argument has been, is it the seal like the stamp or the seal like the seal? And no one has proven linguistically that it meant the seal like the N. That just became the belief system that people enforce with swords and then guns. It's like the sting of polygamy. There's nothing in the Quran that condones polygamy except on one occasion, after the Battle of Badr. And many of the that was the first major revolutionary war the Prophet Muhammad waged. Many of the Muslim brothers had been killed. It was basically a Christian and Jewish community that they live in Mecca. He did not want the women, the wives and the daughters of his brothers killed in battle. So the inviction there is, O ye Muslim men, take from among the orphans, the female orphans, and the widows of your brothers killed in battle, as many as your heart can possess, up to 4. That was to protect them from being molested and raped by the people they had just fought with. That's the instruction. The widows and the orphans of the brothers killed in battle after the Battle of Badr. How that gets interpreted as 100 wives and 50 wives and all this foolishness that people have done. It's just like the covering of the woman. We know there's no compulsion in Islam, and the Quran leaves that clear. Compulsion means you must do this. The things are suggested. And if you don't cover your hair, you're still a good Muslim according to the Quran. This thing of covering up the woman had to do with restricting an animalistic male from abusing women because they had no control over themselves. So we need to deal with what's real so we can be clear. I've walked through those lands and watched these women wearing all the burqa and all of this stuff in that 100-degree weather while the dudes running around in some short pants and a T-shirt. And you tell me there's something Islamic about that? That's insanity, you know. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad took the fundamental principles of Islam. There's something called the 99 Pearls of Faith. How many good Muslims know about the 99 Pearls? The 99 names of Allah, the 99 Pearls of Faith. They're the same things as if you would say 99 Orisha Baba if you were into the Yoruba tradition. These are the qualities and attributes and the powers found in nature and in the cosmology that was discerned by those leaders. That if you mimic, that's why they call them the 99 names of God. If you practice these things, the kind of behavioral changes you will go through would make you so much closer to godliness that you would not behave in a manner that would put you on the level of the animal. But I don't know hardly any mosque that teaches the 99 Pearls of Faith as necessary quality and attributes to be developed in your character. You know, and let me tell you something else. When I went to Mecca in 1974, and I went before, there's a body in Mecca called the Rabat Alim al-Islamim, the Rabata. Some call it the World Muslim League. That's the place where you get credentialed to teach Islam in the world. I'm credentialed to teach Islam anywhere in the world. I choose not to. Not their form of it anyway. But guess who the first person they asked me about? Even though I had a letter saying I'm a disciple of Malcolm X, they didn't ask me about Malcolm X. As soon as we said Salam Alaikum, they said, how's Hajj Muhammad? And I go, Hajj Muhammad? I don't know Hajj Muhammad. You know. And then the sheikh came back again and said, Hajj Muhammad. So he explained that Hajj Muhammad made Hajj. He decided not to bring a foreign way to his people. And he said it. I'm trying to get my people from under one foreign religious cultural domination. I'm not going to put them under another. And thank God Elijah made that decision. You know? But he's respected at the highest level of Islam in Mecca. And yet people over here try to put him down, or he wasn't a real Muslim. Well, ask the people who give the credentials what they think. And they saw him as Hajj Muhammad. And the place is called